Rex finally appeared in the Bad Batch's 7th episode. He was great and did exactly what I've been hoping he would do, help the Batch get their chips out of their heads. I hope we get to see more of that in this series, but for now Rex has walked off into the mist, literally, to meet some unknown contact at an unknown rendezvous. We'll talk about who that might be, but I also want to talk about his general attitude at this point in the timeline, because I thought he was pretty optimistic. He seemed to hold to the ideals of the Republic, saying that just because it was gone, it doesn't mean you can't fight for what it stood for. So what is it over the course of the next 15 or so years that sends Rex into hiding? What makes him drop out of that fight? I think right now Rex's main priority is helping his brothers. That makes perfect sense. He saw firsthand what happened to all of them during Order 66. He and Ahsoka escaped that crashing Venator, but they couldn't save even one clone from their fate. I'm sure he's got some survivor's guilt, and I think that's driving him to seek out clones that need help, which is why Rafa knew he would be interested in hearing about the Batch. They go to Braca, take out the chips, and Rex says that was the first time he'd been on that side of the operation. So I don't think he's helped any other clones yet, but now he probably knows what to do. Although he also points out that it's rare for a clone to defy Order 66, so he has some knowledge. He didn't say it was impossible, he said rare. Maybe he just means the Batch and Cut, but he might have run into other clones that were able to fight the programming for whatever reason. Or maybe they eventually broke out of it like we saw Grey do in the Kanan comic. So it's possible Rex might already have a little clone crew together. Honestly, with everything Gregor went through on Abafar and before where he lost his memory, I think he's a prime candidate. Maybe that's who Rex was going to meet. Although Gregor's story is so full of holes, I hope we actually see him in the series and learn how he survived the events on Abafar. The more obvious and likely choice for Rex's contact is Ahsoka. I hope that's not the case, partly because Ahsoka is in so many stories, but more because I get the sense that she and Rex haven't seen each other since the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. But that doesn't have to be the case. They might have worked together for a time after Order 66 and then parted ways shortly after. But that kinda contradicts what happened in the Ahsoka novel. On the one hand, the Bad Batch has been playing pretty fast and loose with canon, but on the other hand, I have to imagine that story had at least a little input from Filoni on what generally happened to Ahsoka in the year after Revenge of the Sith, just like he gave author E.K. Johnston at least a basic idea of what happened during the Siege of Mandalore. I think it's simpler to have Rex and Ahsoka part ways after Order 66 and not meet up until Rebels, but regardless of who his contact is, we still have this question of why. Why does Rex leave the fight and hide out on Selos with Wolffe and Gregor? I'm going to try to answer this question by combining it with speculation that a lot of fans have had so far. Let's assume the Camino or Clone Uprising or whatever you want to call it does happen. We know it can't be all that successful based on the state of the galaxy in the original trilogy, so maybe Rex goes on this mission over the course of the series to liberate his brothers and then fight against the Empire, but it doesn't go the way they hope and there are only a handful of survivors. Maybe Rex feels responsible for all that loss and then has even more survivor's guilt, so he goes into hiding with his 2 remaining brothers because he feels responsible and wants to protect them. I'm taking a lot of leaps from point A to point B. It's a lot of speculation, of course, but it's something I think I can see happening in the series. It makes sense for lore purposes to explain why we don't see clones or Kaminoans very often after the Clone Wars. Thematically, we could see the show explore a noble fight that doesn't succeed because, let's face it, the good guys don't always win in real life or even in Star Wars. I like this idea for Rex, but I would want to see it balanced with a dash of hope. We ultimately know that Rex does rejoin the fight, so that helps. And even Revenge of the Sith, arguably the darkest Star Wars story, still ends with an optimistic pick-me-up right at the end. So I think it's possible. But if they go this route between Episode 3, the end of the Clone Wars, and then a failed clone uprising, this era is just full of sad stories. It might be a little much. But Obi-Wan doesn't call this period of time the Dark Times for no reason. Those are my thoughts on the matter for now. Honestly, I don't know if I buy into this myself, but I saw people posing the question about Rex and thought I'd do my best to chime in and just see where things might go based on what we currently know. Rex might not even appear in the rest of the series. We might stay ultra focused on the Batch, but knowing how the animated series tend to go, I think we'll see a larger and larger cast of returning and familiar characters as we continue on. But what do you think? Why would Rex drop out of the fight and go into hiding until Star Wars Rebels? Let me know your guesses in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Bad Batch coverage, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page where we're releasing audio commentaries for all these episodes. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.